Blaney collapsed 3 times just trying to get out of his car. Not because of a crash, not because of a wreck, because the piece of safety gear every single driver in that garage depends on decided to quit on him mid-race at 120 degrees for 145 laps. And now Joey Logano is telling us drivers keep strapping into that same gear anyway. Today we're breaking down why NASCAR's most trusted piece of equipment might also be its most dangerous. Every NASCAR cockpit runs brutal heat. We're talking up to 140 degrees on race day. To survive it, drivers wear what's called a cool shirt, a fire-resistant undershirt lined with thin tubing that circulates chilled fluid across the body. It's standard across the entire Cup Series grid, and it fails constantly. Joey Logano confirmed it himself on Kevin Harvick's podcast. When the system works, it's a game changer. When it doesn't, it turns into a nightmare in real time. This isn't some new invention drivers are still testing out. The concept goes back to the 1960s when Paul Goldsmith was experimenting with ways to keep drivers cool. For years, the fix was primitive, literally shoving bags of ice into a fire suit during pit stops. The tubing and pump version we see today didn't show up until the 90s. But it took Jimmy Johnson's team, led by crew chief Chad Knaus, to actually perfect it back in 2018, reportedly by locking a crew member inside a 100-degree paint booth just to stress test the system. Then 2022 happened. NASCAR rolled out the next-gen car, and that car traps heat inside the cockpit worse than anything before it. Overnight, the cool shirt stopped being a luxury. It became survival equipment. And that's exactly why a mechanical failure isn't just an inconvenience anymore. It's a health emergency waiting to happen. Here's the part that should worry every fan watching the sport grow. When that pump dies, the system doesn't just stop helping, it actively starts hurting. The fluid stops circulating, sits against the driver's skin, and slowly heats up to match the cockpit around it. Logano compared it to sitting in a hot tub inside a sauna while still needing to hit breaking points at 180 miles an hour. Think about what that does to performance. Heat doesn't just make you uncomfortable, it degrades reaction time, decision-making, and physical output the same way an overheating engine loses horsepower. Logano flat out said it, these next-gen cars are twitchy, they demand faster hands and faster instincts, and that's exactly the kind of sharpness heat exhaustion destroys first. Now layer in the redundancy problem. Logano described an entire race where his cool shirt, his helmet blower, and his drink system all failed simultaneously. That's not one point of failure, that's a total systems breakdown, and he still had to finish the race competitively. Teams have adapted. They can now drain the fluid faster if something breaks. But that's a band-aid, not a fix. The core vulnerability, a single pump, a single hose, a single point of failure standing between a driver and heat stroke hasn't gone anywhere. And drivers are choosing to run it anyway because the alternative, cooking without any system at all, is worse. That's the real story here. This isn't drivers being reckless. It's drivers accepting real risk because the sport hasn't given them a safer option yet. Expect a split reaction here. Hardcore fans are going to admire the tough Miss Blaney finishing third after collapsing 3 times as the kind of grit that builds legends. But safety-focused analysts and former drivers are almost certainly going to ask the harder question. Why is a piece of equipment this failure-prone still considered acceptable in 2026 when the cars have never trapped more heat? Don't be surprised if this clip resurfaces the next time a driver goes down on pit road. Best case, NASCAR and teams treat this as the wake-up call it should be. Redundancy systems get mandated, and cool shirt failures become a rare footnote instead of a recurring headline. Worst case, nothing changes. Another driver goes down mid-race on national television, and NASCAR's forced into a reactive fix instead of a proactive one. The same pattern we've seen with safety upgrades throughout this sport's history. So here's the question, is this drivers embracing acceptable risk, or is this a sport that's gotten comfortable letting a known problem slide because nobody's died from it yet? Drop your take in the comments. Are you team this is just racing, or team NASCAR needs to fix this now? If you want the real breakdowns behind the headlines, hit subscribe, because we're not done covering this one.